Hello, Sounds True One friends. I'm so grateful that you joined me this evening. I'm sure this is an especially busy time for many of you. And so I'm grateful that you're taking the time to have an hour of practice together, a dedicated hour of practice, which I hope will help you leave here this evening feeling settled and resourced and inspired. I'd love to begin by rattling for a moment, just to ensure that everyone has had the chance to arrive. This is also my way of informing our combined helping spirit that we're preparing to contact them. So I'm just going to rattle for a moment while everybody arrives and settle. Thank you, everyone, and welcome once again. My name is Julie Kramer, and this evening we'll be entering into natural trance states together, which is both my personal practice and also a practice that I teach. And we have a very specific intention, which is to connect with angelic beings this evening. And so, what I would love to do is take about 10 minutes or so in order to provide you with an overview of what our practice is going to consist of. And then I'm actually going to lead you in a guided practice for the duration of our time together. So our entire experience will last approximately an hour. And during the guided practice, I'll be using my voice to lead you in a direct experience of the unseen world. And my voice will be accompanied by a drumming track. So you'll be able to hear both at once alongside one another. And if I may, I'll begin by explaining why we're using a drumming track. The drumming track, as you'll discover if it's unfamiliar to you, is simply going to consist of repetitive drumming. So it's quite a monotonous, quite a consistent drum beat. And the reason for that is because that consistent drum beat actually alters our brainwave activity, enabling us to shift from a beta state to an alpha state and then to a theta state. And with the practice that I teach of entering into natural trance states for the purpose of contacting the spirit world, we rely upon natural trance states, which are generated very organically by, in this case, drumming. We can also use singing and rattling and dancing along with drumming. We'll be using the drumming this evening. And what science has shown us is that through exposure to that very simple, repetitive drum beat, our brainwave activity shifts of its own accord. It shifts naturally. And what begins to happen as part of that process when we enter into a theta state, which is an expansive state of consciousness, what begins to happen is that our subtle senses of perception begin to open. So these are the subtle correlates to our physical senses. And of course, the helping spirits, our benevolent helping spirit, dwell, if you will, in the spirit world, in other spectrums or dimensions of reality, where we'll need our subtle senses in order to navigate and in order to perceive them and experience them. And so our physical senses are still going to be present and online You may hear something in the room where you are or elsewhere in the house, maybe a dog barking, or, as is commonplace at this time of year, a delivery truck arriving or something of that nature. But we'll be continually bringing our attention back to the focus of this practice, which will be a guided journey for the purpose of helping you connect with a benevolent, angelic being. And so, even though our physical senses may perceive things like the temperature changing in the room, or as I said, something you may hear elsewhere in the house, etc., we'll be predominantly inviting our subtle senses of perception to lead the way, leading us into the spirit world and enabling us to navigate in those invisible realms. And so that means that we become able to hear and taste and smell and sense and feel and see and perceive in the spirit world using those subtle pathways of perception. And so at the start of the guided practice, what I'll be doing is helping you settle, of course, and helping you open those subtle pathways of perception in order to make that gradual shift where we're relying on that operating system, if you will, and less so our physical senses. Having said that, we always maintain a certain portion of our awareness in our physical bodies, in the spaces where we are. And so if you find that your experience draws your awareness outward or elsewhere, which is perfectly fine during this practice, and that will be a part of what I lead you in, I would invite you to ensure that there's a part of your awareness that's still very much rooted right in the room where you are and aware of the room where you are. This is a practice for being in both worlds at once, being in the physical world as well as in the spirit world at the same time. And so, of course, both of those, as I said, operating systems are working concurrently and in concert with one another. There is a particular angelic being with whom I have partnered over many, many years, the Archangel Michael, who has offered himself as a primary guide this evening, although there are many other angelic beings whose presence I have certainly become aware of and whose presence I hope you will become aware of as well. And so, although I may reference the Archangel Michael here and there because he's the one leading me as I lead you, I would also like us to hold in our hearts that there are multiple, a great, great many angelic beings who are making their presence known to us and seeking to offer their blessings to you this evening. And on the note of our hearts and what we're holding in our hearts, we do have a shared intention of connecting with these particular benevolent helping spirits. And at the start of the guided practice, we're going to begin with our heart light. And this is the light that naturally emanates through our heart centers. And it's in opening our heart lights and our subtle pathways of perception, which are often called the clairs, as in clairsentience, clairvoyance, etc., that we begin to become aware of the presence of the helping spirit. And some of you will feel their presence right in the room where you are. And as I mentioned, others of you may find that your awareness is traveling in order to make that connection, in order for that connection to occur in a way that feels natural for you. And so I would like to take a moment, as I often do when I'm teaching, to rattle and ask my helping spirits if there's anything else they would like me to share with you before we start. So just a moment. they're reminding me of something very important that may be instructive for you and helpful for us to hold in our heart, which is that although we may know the names of certain angelic beings, archangels, and other angelic beings, we don't need to know their names. We don't need to be able to call them by name in order to receive their blessings and in order to experience their presence. And so the helping spirits are reminding me of the importance of us not focusing on that to the extent that we become concerned that unless we can identify an angelic being by name, that they may not make their presence known. Oftentimes, the opposite is true, that beings make themselves known to us before we know their names. And that may be something that we learn in the fullness of time, but not necessarily straight away. And so, what I'd like to ask our dear friends at Sounds True One is if they could start the recording of the drumming, which will then play alongside the sound of my voice. And that will enable us to begin our guided practice. And so this will, of course, signal a change on your side. So please do take a moment to adjust to the sound of my voice alongside the sound of the drumming, and take a moment to adjust your volume settings accordingly. And I will try to maintain a consistent volume in terms of my speaking voice throughout the practice. And while I'm aware that many of you are seated before your devices, I would like you to know that it would be absolutely fine for you to make yourselves more comfortable than that. If you would like to lean back or even lie down, you're very, very welcome to do so. If you lie down and begin to notice yourself drifting off, that may be a signal to perhaps stay seated, but as comfortably as you can be, while maintaining your awareness, your alertness during the practice. And so taking a moment to make yourself as comfortable as you possibly can in whatever posture you've chosen. We'll take 3 long, full breaths together. And before even beginning to turn our attention towards our heart lights, we'll start by anchoring our bodies in the places where we are. And so noticing the points of contact between your body and your chair or the couch or the floor, everywhere where you can feel the stability of what supports you, of what's beneath your body, supporting your body. We rest our attention in those places where that meeting is occurring, whether it's between the soles of your feet and the floor beneath you, your bottom and the backs of your thighs, and the chair beneath you. Because ultimately, what supports all of these structures is the earth. And so we're seeking to bring our bodies back into connection to the earth. a connection that is always available, but that we may not experience ongoingly. And so we're simply renewing that connection in order to restore a sense of stability and groundedness. Some of you may find that you can feel the strength of the earth reaching up to support your body. It may be the earth's energy field that you begin to sense reaching for your body's energy field. You may find that you may rather send roots down from the palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, your tailbone, and or your perineum. That by sending roots down into the earth, you can find your way to terra firma, finding a place where those roots can anchor and become embedded in untouched earth in such a way that you feel a tremendous sense of stability and rootedness. As our bodies renew their connections to the earth, there is often a natural process of settling that occurs. This is, of course, the home, the only home our bodies have ever known. Our bodies are of the earth and will return to the earth. And so, in renewing the connection, we can experience a sense of homecoming, of belonging, and a beautiful settling in our systems. And we're letting our sweet bodies know that we're preparing for a period of dedicated spiritual practice, and that for our remaining time together, there's nowhere else to go, there's nowhere else to be, that we're just where we need to be. And we have everything we need for our time together. You may notice a softening in terms of your breathing. More evenness when it comes to the in-breath and out-breath. And as our bodies settle into feeling more well anchored to the earth, we can begin to rest our attention upon our heart light, which are an expression of the meeting between spirit and matter. Our heart lights are the lights of our spirits, shining through our heart centers, emanating out in all directions, and giving life to our human earthly bodies. I sometimes find it helpful to use my hand to draw my heart light out from my heart center so that it extends in all directions, all the way to the edges of my energy body. And as we do so, we'll begin to invite our subtle pathways of perception, our clairs, to begin to open. Noticing as you rest your attention upon your heart light, what you see. If you happen to see a particular color, if you see light, you may see rays or sparkles. Noticing that as the natural radiance of your heart light becomes brighter and brighter, if you may feel any of its qualities, maybe you feel a texture, or maybe you feel certain sensation. There may be an effervescent quality. There may be an increased warmth or a coolness that you feel. Our heart lights shine in every direction as though there's a star in our heart center, radiating light in every direction. And for some people, there's a particular smell that comes with that experience. And for others, a knowing. We've touched upon clairvoyance, clairsentient, clear olfactory pathway, our knowings of our clear cognizance. And in this moment, I would invite you to experiencing a knowing about your eternality, a recognition of your eternality, which is what the divine light of your spirit animates your body with, so that there is at once a knowing of the impermanence of this body, and at the same time, the eternality of your spirit. As your heart light radiates out in every direction from your heart center, it fills up your body with light so that your body begins to feel like a light body. And as that light permeates every cell, noticing that there's a lessening of that sense of density. Our bodies are, in fact, far less dense than we often experience them as. And at this moment, we're inviting the experience of our bodies as light bodies. I believe that some of you have already become aware of the presence of the benevolent angelic being you are with. And I would invite you to widen your apertures of perception so that you're not only experiencing your light body and its electromagnetic field, but also the presence of the being who have come to stand by you, whose nearness can now begin to be felt. The helping spirits communicate with us using the language of the heart, oftentimes poetically or metaphorically, and correspondingly, we can perceive them through and as our heart light, using all of our pathways of perception. And so I invite you to notice who has come to stand to one side of you or the other, or perhaps in front or behind you. Who is making their presence known to you? We welcome the presence of the benevolent angelic being the archangel, the guardian angel, the sentinel angels, the healing angels, the earth angels, all of the angelic beings in all of their magnificence and in all of their medicine. And some of you may find that there's a particular helping spirit who may be an animal spirit or a benevolent ancestor or certainly an angelic being who wishes to draw your attention elsewhere, to lead you elsewhere in order for this meeting to occur. And the invitation is for you to follow and allow yourself to be led, allow yourself to be guided to a sacred, safe place of potency and holiness, a place where the meeting that is yours to have can take place between you and an angelic being. And whether you've stayed right in the room where we began, or whether your awareness has been drawn elsewhere, perhaps outwards or downwards or upwards, whichever benevolent helping spirit whose nearness you sense the most strongly, whether you see them, whether you hear them, whether you sense them, there may be a particular fragrance that you smell in their presence or a particular taste that arises spontaneously in their presence. Whether there's a knowing that they're there. We're going to ask the helping spirits to provide an attunement, and this can happen by any number of means. Sometimes the helping spirits will lay their hands upon us. Sometimes the helping spirits will gaze into our eyes. Sometimes something will be whispered into your ear for an understanding will descend into your awareness. And attunement brings us into resonance with a single helping spirit or several helping spirits all at once. And it's offered to us by the helping spirit. So it is for us to receive, not to effort in any way. And so we'll take a moment to allow the attunement process to occur, to receive whatever is needed, whatever fine-tuning is needed. We are exquisite instruments of perception, and attunements help us literally become attuned to the helping spirit. So we'll take a moment to allow that process to occur. some of the angelic beings whose presence bears mentioning are what we call psychopomp allies or psychopomp angel. These are the conductors of souls who approach us as we approach our time of death, who accompany us as we leave our physical bodies and as our souls cross over into the light. And the angelic beings are indicating that for some of you, it is this type of angel that you most need. And that may be by way of assurance, assuring you of who will be there to tend to your soul at the time of your death, to assist you in your radiant passage at the time of your death, that when that time comes, you'll recognize them and know that they come to support you, to comfort you, and to accompany you. But the angelic beings are also saying that for some of you, for many of us, perhaps all of us, there are familial psychopomp angel. And that for those of you who are facing the loss of loved one, for you to know that these familial psychopomp angels, these angelic beings who have assisted your ancestors, generation upon generation upon generation, that those beings are near and available and are beginning to make their presence known. And that while their presence heralds, perhaps in some cases, the imminent passing of a loved one, their presence is also a tremendous comfort, for they are the harbingers of a good death. Whatever the conditions are or the circumstances are at the physical level, they tend to the passage of the soul. They tend to the well-being of the soul, ensuring the soul's exit from the human body and the soul's passage across the great threshold into the light. And when these are psychopomp angels who are familial psychopomp angel, they're demonstrating and acting in accord with long-standing alliances between your lineage and these resplendent beings. This evening, we have entered into our practice together with a shared intention of receiving the wisdom of the angelic being, of experiencing their presence individually and collectively. And the angelic beings are answering that call but they're also answering the call that's in your heart, the cry of your heart. Whatever need you have, it may be a need for healing. It may be a need for clarity. It may be a need for emboldening. What you may need is courage. What you may need is resiliency. What you may need is hope. What you may need is connection. And as our circle sends out the calls or the cries within our individual hearts, our collective needs are answered by the angelic being. And so I invite you to consider what is at the heart of what lies in your heart. What need or longing that can be answered, that can be met. What is most truthful, most earnest, most alive and true for you in this moment. And if you wish, you can voice that aloud in the room where you are as a need or as a request. Benevolent, angelic beings, here is what I need from you. The angelic beings have specialized areas of mastery, and we may thus collaborate with multiple or a multitude of angelic beings who are serving a variety of functions, who are sharing their medicine with us in different ways, who are tending to our well-being in the ways that they can and know how to. Their very presence is a healing. And whether you yourself feel that you're in the company of a single angelic being or legions of angelic beings, we'll take a few moments now to enable you to receive whatever is yours to receive in response to what you gave voice to, what you are asking for, the need that is most true and alive for you in this moment. And we'll invite the angelic beings to use whatever means would be the most gentle and effective to tend to you in your place of need. So we'll take a few moments in silence to allow for that to unfold. For some of you, it may be a message that you need, a blessing, or a beautiful nugget of guidance. I'm seeing that some of you are receiving healings, which might include the process of dismemberment, which is where we are taken apart and then put back together again, sometimes without something that is not us and not ours and was not serving, and sometimes with something that is us and is ours and is needed in order to enable us to continue serving. And I'm seeing that some of you are being offered the gift of angelic sight because some of you are angels in the lives of others. Some of you are like angels walking this earth in human form. And with angelic sight, you can hold everyone and everything with exquisite compassion and equanimity. And the angels are reminding me to say, including holding yourself that way. in addition to everyone else. And so we'll spend another few moments in silence to allow whatever is needed for you to continue to unfold. We'll soon be bringing our practice to a close. So I would ask that you and the angelic being that you're receiving from take a moment now in order to complete the process that you're in. And as your process begins to reach its conclusion, we'll ask the benevolent angelic being one of my favorite things to ask the helping spirit, which is there anything else? Is there anything else that would be timely and appropriate for me to receive in this moment? And I'll offer you another moment or two in silence in order to receive whatever else is needed. And once you've received whatever else was needed, we'll take a moment to offer gratitude, to offer our thanks to the being who made their presence known for the first time or again and again. And we'll hold the intention together as we say our goodbyes, that everything that we received will accompany us back into our rooms, back into the places where we started, that we won't leave anything behind, including these connections. So please take a moment to offer your thanks. And there'll be a change in the drumming shortly. And that is to signal the end of our practice, bringing all of your awareness back into your body and into the room where you started. Or if you have remained here, just where you began, beginning to bring your awareness back into our circle. And we'll end with a brief moment of gratitude that we can share together. We gratefully acknowledge our combined helping spirit, including the benevolent angelic being that we had the great good fortune of experiencing just now, including and most especially those whose names we do not know or have not named, who are nonetheless lending us their support, for which we're so grateful. As always, we would like to offer our thanks for all of the support that we received this evening and will continue to receive for all the days to come. And we ask that our activities from this evening and for all the days to come be for the benefit of all beings, that all beings may experience the presence of benevolent beings of light who are devoted to our well-being, to our healing, and to our evolution. Thank you for joining me. Good night, friends.